Hi, I'm Nick, and if you're new here, I moved to Denmark in April 2024, and I want to tell you about my experience living here. So right now, I'm in my friend's beautiful apartment that she so kindly let me use while waiting for her to finish up with her Danish class. And in the future, I will also be doing an interview with her about her experience moving over to Denmark and why she liked it, if she wants to stay here long term or not. So make sure to check that out because that'll be coming out after this video. So the main reason why I moved to Denmark was because that one, I was kind of burnt out of just working in the UK and staying there. I felt that the economy wasn't doing well, even though the industry I was in at the time from my previous job was kind of thriving during the recession. And honestly, I'm so thankful for that experience, and I still really look back on my first job very fondly. But at the same time, it started to get me thinking that do I want to stay in the UK long term? Do I want to stay there and wait for a PR? And after I get a PR, like what happens? Because I do know many people who wants to do that, but then plans to maybe leave after they get a PR. But it does take a long time that you have to stay there in order to get it. But yeah, anyways, that's probably a whole other video. Because I was already debating about whether I wanted to stay in the UK, I decided that okay, I got this job offer and it's only 1 year, so I'm not committing to anything super huge, so why not just go? Let's try and see what happens. So I took the risk. I've literally before this job, I've never been to Denmark even as a holiday. I know absolutely nobody here, and I don't know any Danish, okay? I don't think I've even met a Danish person before coming here. So it was quite a big risk. What is my first impression of Denmark? So this all came to me right when I was through my solo trip. So I just felt that it is very similar to London, but I had a few things that I didn't really like about London, which is why I wanted to move out as well. Which is that it's always so busy, like everybody is in a rush, and it's really crowded, and I just didn't really like that. I'm not a big city girly. I was born in a small town next to the island. I'm like a small town girl, but I kind of like the city vibe, but I don't like the crowds that comes with the big city vibes. And Copenhagen kind of fulfilled all that roles. One major thing that I realized when I came to Denmark was the amount of cyclists on the roads. Like, we had lots of people who cycled in London as well to commute between here and there for work, but like here can easily compete with Amsterdam. And I think based on the internet, Copenhagen has more cyclists than Amsterdam, and Amsterdam's whole vibe and whole thing on the internet is the bikes. So just imagine that. And also I feel like the roads were very catered to it, towards it as well. Like, there's designated lanes, there's like traffic lights just for it, and the amount of different types of bikes here also is really interesting. So it was just such a shock to see how different it is, and I really liked that change. It felt really refreshing. So one is that the place is super vibey. It has the same atmosphere of Amsterdam with a blend of London but minus the crowds, which I really liked. Also, another thing is that I've only stayed in Copenhagen at the time during my solo trip, so I don't have much of an opinion of other places in Denmark yet at the time. And you can also check out my solo trip vlog over here. I'll put it up there. Other main thing I really liked is that no matter who else I talked to, people who had lived and worked in Denmark before, is that Denmark is super safe. And if you know the UK, well, we're not exactly known for safety. I think like you walk down the street, you gotta hold on to that phone in order to not have anyone snatch it. Over here, You know, you don't really care. You can walk at night and not feel like that scared to walk around, and which is something that's really important to me, especially if I was going to be moving here alone without knowing anybody. So safety definitely comes first when thinking about all of these decisions. And then the first impression, I was like thinking, there are so many castles here. There's like, oh my gosh, there is the Amalienborg, just in Copenhagen itself, there was the Amalienborg, Christianborg, Castle, Frederiksberg, I think. Oh my god, there's just so many just within the city, and then outside, there's like there's Hamlet's Castle, which is like a train ride up from Copenhagen. There's just so many, and just having it like in the middle of the city was kind of interesting. You have in London you have Buckingham Palace, right, where the royal family does stay in, but Amalienborg Castle is similar to that, but they don't have like that big gate, which makes it look like tourists are just looking into a zoo, and the royal family is the ones being kept in a cage. But over here it's a more open concept. There's no gate. You can walk into the middle area, and there are guards everywhere just to make sure of safety, of course, but that also kind of shows about how safe this place is, because you're not expecting someone to do something like crazy over there, which I really really liked again. So after all that, I made the move to Denmark at the end of April 2024, where I started work around May, and there were some culture shocks that I experienced when I moved there. And this is separate to work, but just like in socials and aspects, or like housing and all that. So like the main biggest culture shocks, that just like highlights of them, is that one, when I got the house, in most places, even if it does come with furnishing, they don't usually come with built-in ceiling lights, because that's something that apparently the Danes find to be very personal and customizable. So they like to bring in their own, and you can easily buy these type of like ceiling lights from IKEA, and there's YouTube videos in order to teach you how to install them. So there's usually like these like lines at these lines at the top of the ceiling, which you can kind of like slot them in, and then there's like plugs everywhere, and it's just like, apparently it's super easy to do, but I never did it because my ceilings are very tall, and I'm kind of short. Okay, as much as I hate to admit that, I am kind of short, and I didn't really want to be bothered, so I just bought standing lights, and I enjoyed them. I know, and I'm not gonna be here long term, so I didn't want to make it extra hard for myself to uninstall them in the future, because what if something goes wrong? Okay, I don't want to lose my deposit to that. And speaking of deposit, in the UK, from what I remember, is that the deposit is usually 1 month of rent, whereas over here it's quite common that it's 3 months of rent, and then you pay your first month upfront. So that's total of, you need to prepare 4 months of rent, and that's a crazy amount. That's a crazy amount. It's, yeah, I don't know. But I guess the good thing as well, maybe because of how much deposit you have to pay, that people usually take care of their homes very much. But it also ties in with their culture of hygge, which is that you kind of want to make sure that your coziness inside your house is very nice, something very comfortable, something you really enjoy to look at, or has nice atmosphere, because the winter months here is so dreary. Okay, like I think for people who have stayed in the UK, we're used to gray weathers, so you can think of it very similar to that. So over here it's colder, so I guess with it both combining together, it's a bit tough to go through it. But because I was used to UK, it didn't hit me as hard compared to it. Like, if you're used to there, I feel like the difference to be here is that maybe you get more snow, but that's kind of it. I also almost feel that like I get more sun in Denmark compared to the UK. But I don't know, maybe it's just the year, because this is something that just changes every year, and with global warming, everything changes. Okay, besides the point. Another culture shock is that when moving on into these houses, most of the wall, like there are lots of big windows like for the walls. And that's something I really like because I appreciate natural lighting into the house. I just feel like it brightens up the room. So this is not something very common I found in the UK. I don't even know how to explain UK houses like, but you kind of, if you know, you know, okay? I don't know how to say it, and I don't really want to talk bad about it. Is that sometimes you do have nice big windows, sometimes you don't. Most of the time, not. You don't have nice big windows that goes spans through the whole wall or like is the whole wall. And the thing is, even though the walls are big windows, they're actually quite well insulated as well, at least from my friends' places that I've been to or heard of, my colleagues talking about it. Something about it is just really good. Another thing is that for doctors and GP, we have free healthcare similar to the UK. However, you need to call for like everything here, okay? If you have like a doctor's appointment, do you want to get a doctor's appointment? You have to call from like 8 to 9, tell them, hey, I'm sick, can I get an appointment today? And there's no like app, so I think in the UK you could kind of like at least use an app to go and book an appointment or go to your local GP directly. But over here you need to make the phone call first, and they'll tell you the time that you come over. So personally I felt that it was a bit more faster faster to get it, but at the same time I'm not really sure because I haven't like had big injuries. But at the same time I've got like same day appointments that I call like in the morning that I'm not feeling well, and they also then you collect your medicine in the local pharmacy. So all of these things are actually decided by the government. So based on your location, it will automatically assign you to a GP. And also if you have kids, it will also assign your children to a local school based on your district. So every time you move, you have to update these records, which is like part of your residence permit or whatever. And this is just like even for locals, then they will automatically update these things for you. So that's something I kind of like how automated it was, but I didn't like how you have to call for everything. There's not much of like an online option where you can be like, let me cancel my subscription. They're like, no, you have to call me in order to cancel that. So right now I'm in the process of slowly moving out, so I have to cancel a lot of my bills, and you must call them. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. But the good thing is that people do speak English here, even though they start off with Danish. Then you just have to say "Tele du English," and then you'd be like, okay, great. Oh, and on that note, for your like your ID number thing, so actually there is an app which is linked to that, and it's called the Mid ID. And you use this to verify almost every account that you have. So especially if it's like bills, so you just like have this app, Mid ID, you scan the QR code with your app, and then it automatically links to your personal identification. You just say like, yes, I want to use this in order to log into this account, and that helps make things a lot more secure. So if you're making big payments through your bank, you also use your Mid ID. You need to set up your Wi-Fi, you use your Mid ID. So as an expat, you only can get your Mid ID after you move into Denmark. So that actually caused me a bit of problem because it does take a little while for that thing to process. So I couldn't get my internet until I got my Mid ID. So I knew someone who was in Denmark, and I was able to borrow his Mid ID first in order to get my Wi-Fi. And after that I just updated to my own personal record so that it's no longer linked to that person. And honestly, thank God for that, or else I would be struggling for a month without internet in my house. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, why is my personal identification so important to this? Like, I have all my other documents, my passport, my whatever, but it's just like this thing to say that I'm a resident in Denmark. It was just a lot. I was like, my goodness, I just want to pay my bills. And another culture shock is that, well, Everybody works out here in some way or another, whether that's commuting on the bikes, they go running. Running's a big thing, but running's also a big thing in the UK, where like run clubs are like in other places. I don't know, maybe it's like an age thing, I'm not sure, but I guess because of the number of people who bikes here, I just feel like it's more, and everyone is they're very keen in like keeping up with their health and just like constantly exercising. And if you like talk about, like, it's almost like strange if you don't care about your physical health, and then they'll be like, but why not, like it's good for you. Like they don't have to do anything like super intensive, like where people are always like weightlifting. It can be like they go to yoga, pilates, doing HIIT, cycling, you know. It's just like they just do some sort of like regular activity. And because of that, after I started coming here, like I joined in and I've tried lots of different exercises, and I find them fun and enjoying. And like when you go to these classes, these people are so nice, but again, they all speak Danish within these fitness classes, so you kind of have to guess your way in it. But everyone has been really nice to me. And when I go to like these Pilates classes, the whole class fully Danish. But occasionally, if I'm struggling to follow like what they're doing, because I can kind of guess most of the way, then she'll come up to me, explain it to me in English, and be like, oh, you have to do this, and then like no one shames me for that. But I do know some people who have had bad experiences while being in Denmark, but to me, like, I've had a pretty pleasant experience. You can also see like grandparents who are like out cycling you past, like, and then you're just like huffing and puffing the side, like, oh my god, I'm so tired. And they're like la 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 la, cycling way past you, overtaking you, and you're like, wow, I strive to be like that grandma. I want to be like 80 and like have full control of my body and still cycling as if I'm on a marathon for my day-to-day task. It's really amazing, honestly. And I guess that's like just a big culture shock, because if you in Malaysia, everyone drives, you know, like, and the heat is so bad, so it makes it even more difficult for people to do things like this. Whereas I guess over here you have a more nicer air, like the temperature is like very nice and very comfortable to do these sort of exercises most of the time. So I feel like maybe that also helps, especially if you compare to Asia. For the UK, yeah. So what are my thoughts about Denmark after staying here for 10 months? So I think a lot of the first impressions still stands true, where I thought that this place was very safe. It has a similar atmosphere towards Amsterdam and London, but like less crowds, but more cyclists. Oh, I forgot to mention that I initially thought that I would be able to travel to more European countries at a cheaper price compared to living in London, because we're part of the EU, I don't know, and we're like connected to Germany, but that's not true. It's actually way more expensive to travel from Copenhagen to outside, and maybe I should have expected it, because Nordic countries are so expensive, okay? So yeah, I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. If you thought London was expensive, you should come to Nordic countries. It's pricey, okay? Would I come back here again if I had the chance to? I would say yes, because of the industry I want to break into. Even though it's not as international as I would say compared to Sweden, but there are a lot of like people who move in, which are EU citizens, who come into Denmark to work in this industry. So I felt that it was a bit more easier to get into, and I was lucky enough to get this job. So being able to go through this experience again, I would definitely take it, because I really enjoyed my time here. But would I stay here long term? Probably not. One thing though is that if I had a family, I think Denmark would be a really nice place. Or maybe like, I don't really know how it is in others Nordic countries, but just like from what I've heard from my coworkers and how they what are the interesting and unique things part of the education system here. for one is that kids have like a year where they are able to explore their own personal interests, like for example like soccer, DJing, making music, and that's like a whole year before university. So I think it's like between their high school years or whatever. I don't really know what exact age, but there is 1 year that they just fully dedicate to that, and they live out like away from their parents for like a what's that word, you stay on campus kind of thing, and then you like just learn only like the subject that you're interested in. And I feel like it's good. And then from there, if they realize they hate it, then you know it's good to find that out then, early on. And if they love it, then that's something that they could pursue in the future. And this is something that they have with guidance as well. So I think it's amazing.
Editor Nick here. So I found out that boarding school year thing is basically you have to pay a lot of money in order to participate in that kind of program. So it's not all families that will do this thing.
Apart from that is that over here you will find so many people who take gap years, and the average age for people to graduate from university is actually much higher compared to others, because over here if you're a citizen, then you are able, then the university will like give you allowance. They'll basically pay you to go into university. So that's why there's not much stress among locals for them to rush their children to get into university. The quality of education and the level is already really good. So being able to like have that burden off of the parents, I think is really nice. And I think I even had a friend who did a year in Denmark. Like she's Malaysian, she came here for a year to study about like a random subject, and it was for free. So I think like foreigners are able to be eligible for 1 year. Don't quote me on that because I've never done it. I think overall it's very nice as a family. But if you're just like a person who's single, I don't know, because I've met like some Danes who are like, why did you come to Denmark? Why? It's not really about like judging you. It's more about like they're generally curious about like, especially if I told them I was in UK, they're like, I want to go to UK. Why are you coming it to Denmark? And everyone will have their own personal. I think it's all a very personal level about what makes you want to move to a country. But I think for me, so things that I didn't like in the UK and wish would be better, I found the better in Copenhagen, and I like that because my base level and my expectations were based on my previous experiences. So would I come here again? Yes. Would I move here long term? Debatable, probably not unless I have a family. Do I recommend it as a holiday spot? Definitely. If you're a solo female traveler, I did my first solo trip here. You should definitely go for it. It's so safe. It's so nice. I love it so much. Is there lots of things to do here? Depends on what kind of things you like to do. I would say that UK definitely has a lot more things to do day to day. Like if as a person living in the city, over here you just have lots of castles. Is it very scenic? Also questionable. You have nice seaside views. I really like that. But everything's very flat here, which is why it's so nice to cycle. So if you're looking for mountains, go somewhere else. There's no skiing slopes here at all. You gotta go to some other country. Go to Switzerland, go to Norway, go to Finland. But do I recommend other people to move here? Yes. Honestly, this place is great. If you feel that you can thrive in this environment and you're okay with some of the cons, which is mainly the social aspects that can be quite hard to break through, but if you know you're you're a socialite, you know how to meet people, you just go to like those events and meet up and internations or whatever, and you know that you like to make friends with strangers like that easily, this might be the place for you, because it is hustling and bustling but without the crowds, much bigger walkways. I just like it. But then if you are a bit more introverted and then I find that maybe it might be a bit more difficult in order for you to make friends, which then in turn could then influence your decision about whether you want to move here. Again, also after you stay here long term, you have to start thinking about tax wise, how they monitor it. There are definitely a lot more stricter on tax rules in Denmark. It's just kind of a thing here where it's very controlling and they count pennies, okay? And it's like in a lot of ways they're very automated here, but there's some ways that they're not, that you have to do a lot of things manually. But you know, there's always pros and cons to another place, and I think as long as you're open to dealing with those cons, a lot of the pros are very, very good here. And personally, I really hope you guys like this video, because I want to do more like this. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any other experiences of living abroad, and tell me how it went. And yes, see you next time.